Let's go with Michael.
All right. Michael in Kansas. You're talking to Eric and V. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Doing good. Hanging in there.
I am amped. Let's do it.
Yeah, it seems like you were having fun there.
Yeah. I hope that it works out for them. I do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But what did you want to talk about?
Well, I had some really, really rough experiences this year. I experienced a lot of losses, mostly due to cancer. I had a friend of mine pass away around the same time that my grandmother died, and around that time, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer.
Wow.
And I reached out to the people that I interact with a lot every day, and I guess as an atheist, I'm having trouble continuing to do that because I get a lot of I'll say a prayer for you or something about like I should go to church or that they're not really gone, that I'll see them again, and I'm not exactly like super open about my non-belief, but I'm not exactly in the closet about it either, and I don't find their answers helpful. I even find them a little cruel, if that makes any sense at all, because I don't like you can't demonstrate or what you're promising me is going to happen, and that's not helping me deal with the now. And I had this awful experience at my grandmother's funeral. Of course, she requested it to take place at a church back in the town she used to live in. She died in Arizona, and they had her cremated and brought over, so it's easier to transport that. And I'm sitting there, and I haven't been in a church for a funeral in a long time, and I'm sitting there now as a non-believer, is where I was raised Christian, and I'm looking around constantly, hearing what everybody's saying, and I just kind of sat there quietly and kept to myself because I didn't really want to get into it with anybody, but it just it was weird, and just hearing things that I no longer accepted and believed in, and the pastor who was delivering the speech and the sermon kept getting my grandmother's name wrong the entire time.
No.
And we corrected him several times. It's not hard to say Lara Lee. I don't think that's a really hard name to remember, but he seemed far more invested in preaching to everybody about how wonderful this God was. And if you accept that this God is real, then you accept that this God killed my grandmother. So this God is so great to do that. And as he's walking around not paying attention, he bumps into the table that her urn is on, and it goes over.
Oh my God.
And it doesn't break, and of course her ashes are still in a bag.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get up, I wanted to scream in his face, I wanted to hit him, and I didn't do any of that. And I just I don't get how to deal with people anymore in those kinds of situations where they're just living in this different world than me, and I guess I don't relate to people anymore, especially not in those kinds of situations. I know I'm talking a lot here, but
it's okay.
I guess I wanted somebody to say something about how amazing this woman was, that the things in her life that mattered were like when she would take me and my siblings in when my house was not a safe place to be in for various reasons, and about how she always made sure we had clothes and school supplies every year, and made sure we were safe when we wouldn't have been otherwise. I don't know. What are your, how do I deal with those people other than
Well,
telling them to fuck off, which is what I really want to do, but I can't do that. That's not how
I think
society should work.
first off, you just stood up and said something amazing about her.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to watch this. I think that's impactful. So two things. The first is, it's I know it's kind of a bit of a holdover from when I went to church, but it absolutely applies, and that is grace. Dealing with something with grace, right? It takes a lot of patience, a lot of kindness, a lot of understanding for you to be in that place with people who are saying this, that they don't know that they're hurting you necessarily. They're going through their own grieving process, but that doesn't make it easier to hear. In fact, I'm with you on this one, because when my grandmother passed, I was very, very close with her, and her funeral was turned into an altar call. And it was, she's watching you right now, and she hopes to see you again, and it would break her heart if you didn't. So you should be giving your life to Christ. In my particular situation, I wound up complaining to a few family members that I felt like the memory of my grandmother was hijacked. And things were toned down a bit after that, at least around me, which was nice. That's not always going to be the case. But what it does take is a lot of patience and a lot of kindness. And don't say about yourself, I don't relate to people, because you're not alone, Michael. We've felt it too. We get it. It hurts. It's shitty. And, the funny thing is people go, well, it just gives people hope. Well, I can say, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million next month. That'll put you in a really good mood. But when the time comes, a month goes, and you don't have that $1 million in your checking account, what then? Mm. You're going to miss $1 million that you were never going to have. It's a promise. And I think it is particularly vile when it prevents people from grieving. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who have worked their way away from religion and then had to grieve the people they love again because they thought they were going to get to see them again.
Yeah.
It's atrocious.
Yeah, I can. That definitely resonates with me, and thanks for that. Something else that I saw is my little cousin. She's about 8 or 7 or 8 years old. That she got up in front of the funeral ceremony and started. She had this very moving speech, but and in it, I was picking out the things that what she's talking about, how she'll see grandma again and all this stuff, and it'll be okay, and everybody else in the church is nodding their heads like, no, she's just. I want to go. She's just parroting what she's been told because everybody around her tells her this, so that she doesn't feel so bad, but I can't really have that conversation with somebody else's child.
No. And it sucks to see. Man, it sucks to see. By the way, I want to let you know that I would love for you to check out the live chat after this call.
I'm looking at it.
You're getting a lot of love. And the back is, our crew is sending you love rings as well.
I appreciate it.
Big hug, man. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this loss.
Yeah, everybody in the chat, thank you so much. I can see your messages, and I really appreciate them, and I appreciate you guys taking my call and let me get some of that out. And
the studio audience is sending you love rings as well, actually. I'm seeing this in the studio audience. All right, man. Take care of yourself, all right?
Thank you very much. You as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's hard, and it's dangerous, and I have many feelings about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to go home recently, last couple of weeks, because my dad died by suicide. I hadn't talked to him in years, five years-ish, and for other reasons, but to see my little siblings talk about him as though they were going to see him again was very hard. Especially because I knew they were looking at me and feeling sorry for me because I didn't have that source of hope and that source of, that just seems so sad and so depressing to think that they're just gone. And you gotta let people grieve in the way that they need to grieve. You've got to be respectful about that. And that goes both ways. If you are grieving, you should not be forced to participate in someone's religion or to thank people for religious thoughts or offerings, if that's not what you're doing. But then again, if the person grieving is religious, I think in that moment, respect is paramount. But yeah, it's a weird place to be, and it's not comfortable. But at least we're not setting ourselves up for false expectations and false hope later on.
Yeah. And it's okay. And it takes time. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You get to look at the live chat too now because you're
gosh.
getting a ton of love. I didn't know that you were going to share that. And
I didn't
appreciate
either.
it.
So